So this year, when I was approached by Springer to talk at this session, I was asked to do an interactive breakout session, and I'm like, okay, well, what exactly do you want me to do? And basically, Jason, who's not here today, suggested that I give a 5 to 10 minute kind of scenario of how I see the current government situation and what I'm doing and what are kind of initiatives that I'm seeing or opportunities that I see, and then breakout after that into 3 different groups, and you've kind of seen the topics on the agenda, and breakout discuss into groups, and initially they were people that were supposed to be here were supposed to position themselves. Now it's going to be Paul and Wendy that'll join 2 other groups and myself in one of the groups so that we can assist sort of the discussions, and we'll kind of wrap it up. So for me, again, like I said, I just kind of called it a few thoughts, and it's my email and my Twitter handle if you ever want to tweet me or anything else. So for me, what's on the radar, and it's pretty evident that we hear libraries are closing, and for me it's a reality as well. I work at the Canada School of Public Service. My library wasn't affected by DRAP at the current moment, but it's always a reality that I have to try to justify why we have a library, why is it important, what's going on, and how can that affect me. So, and I see that we have lower circulation stats. It was mentioned this morning in the presentation that they're seeing that, and I'm seeing it as well at the school. I was looking at the last couple of years and looking at lowering number of statistics in actually circulation of content, but our online content, the stats are a lot higher, which I think is representative of how clients are asking for content. So there's more and more demand for online access and online content, and also there's more and more desire to digitize collections, and that's physical collections in the library, but also looking at reports from the organization, from the department, to a wide variety of stuff, because I'm also implicated in other areas that are not just library. I moved from Natural Resources Canada, and I took over the Chief Librarian position at the Canada School, and my position right from the get-go was a hybrid position. And a little bit about that, I guess. The Canada School of Public Service was one of the first departments that piloted GC Docs, which is an information management and records management system, and my role was kind of pulled into there, which leads me to sort of some emerging opportunities or roles and opportunities in government. Well, for me, it was, okay, well, do I really want to do that? Am I kind of pulling myself out of what my role and my responsibilities are? But the thing is, at the back end of it, my director's saying, well, if you don't do that, I have less way to justify your continued existence in the library or justifying yourself being in the library. If I pull you in and I can add your responsibilities on paper, you're part of our rollout. And our rollout has been mandated by the whole of government, so there's a way for me to keep you in there. So it's up to you how much you want to get involved. And at this current time, I'm probably about 30 to sometimes 40% of my day-to-day is involved with GC Docs. I do reporting, I do their stats because I understand the stats, I understand reporting, but at the same time, I'm also doing library reporting. And this is something for me that was a big and important thing, was what about reporting? And something that I worked at NRCan, we did stats, but what did the stats really mean? And right now, we're reporting to a dashboard that's basically was sent to the CIO, that's now pushed out on our intranet, and that reporting is showing 2 things right now. I'm doing for our group is on the IM side, how many people do we have trained with GC Docs, how many documents do we have inside of GC Docs, et cetera, et cetera. But on the library side is how many books that we circulate, how many articles got downloaded, how many searches were done in our databases, and everything else. And I'm actually adding a dollar value to all that. And that dollar value is increasing as the year is progressing to show what's our return on investment from the organization. They're paying X amount of money to our library, but this is what they're turning out. And right now at, 10 months in the year, we already made more money in savings than what it's actually costing for all our staff and all our acquisitions for the year.
How do you work it out?
Depends. I'm looking at what is a search worth in dollar cents, what is an abstract worth in dollar cents, what is a full text article worth in dollar cents, and you can find that out. There's different places you can get those numbers, but I'm attributing to, I think, a full text around a $30 value to sometimes $50 value, like depending. I'm trying to look at what market values are and attributing those. Same thing for our interlibrary loan service, or what our document delivery is doing, how many searches we're doing, and we're documenting all that in our stats, but I'm actually reapplying that and giving creative numbers every month so that I can actually justify that. And that comes back to before I was at the school, and I'm going a little bit sideways because, like I said, I want to tell a little bit of a story. And our CIO, who has not a lot of experience with the library, doesn't really know the library. The position had been vacant for over a year. So for him, the library was a space that there had books. And at one point, he was told that, well, do you realize that the value in the library is over $1 million? He says, what do you mean? He says, well, if these books are all to disappear and we need to repurchase them, there's over $1 million in books. And he's like, oh my God. So now he has something that he say, you know what? I can talk to other DGs or ADM saying, our library has over $1 million worth of our collection. Like, wow, like this is a bragging point for him. And now for us, showing that extra value that, you know what, the library's saving money to your organization is another bragging point, because he's showing that there's value to what we're doing. And it's more than just saying, well, here's the number of books that we loaned out, or here's the number of hours that we spent supporting the business. It's not just hours, but what's the dollar? Because in this government time, looking at DRAP and everything else, money means a lot. And for us, it's been a way to leverage that as much as we can and try to bring it to senior management as much as we can. And now having a spot on our intranet, on a kind of portal page that's showing what's our value, well, here you go. Here's a nice big graph with numbers that are explained and what's our value. And what's been our value last year, where are we at this year, what are we even projecting, looking at our statistics, and how can we demonstrate that?
Can you come out, Canada? That's what we talked about all morning. We wrote it all down, and then there we go.
Yeah. Well, it's up and running. I'm not a big fan of dashboards as it is, because again, if nobody sees it, that's part of the problem. And for me, it comes to the other stuff that's going around. And here I talked about learning about new products, informations, and mobility. And being a librarian or information professional, I think a title is too much. And that was also another thing that was, when I got to the school, saying, well, we might have to rename it, because a library is not a popular term right now. We might have to call it a knowledge center. You know, there's other departments that have called it knowledge centers. Whatever works, works. And for me, it's the same thing. You don't need to be called a librarian. You're an information professional. You deliver a product or information in a certain way, but how you do it doesn't really matter, as long as you're meeting the client's needs, or you're embedding yourself and seeing yourself as a valuable player in the organization. And being mobile, and the mobility thing for me is about learning about new technologies and how you can integrate those as well. And it's being mobile on the fly that, you know what, government doesn't pay for my iPhone, but I still use it, and I still use it in the business world as well. I know I'm taking on things that maybe are not government, and government is not paying for it, but you know what? The more that I can push out there, the more I can guarantee my job and have a paycheck next week. And for me, I'm not limiting myself to that. I'm not limiting myself to the traditional library content that we have. It's sometimes going out of the box, finding ways to get access to information, and pushing out. And can hear from a department, well, you know what? We don't have access to YouTube. Well, I have YouTube on here if I need to. And if it's showing a client on a small screen, and a client says, oh, I didn't realize that was there, and it starts echoing, well, you're not the only one who's starting to fight for YouTube. Now you're spreading it out for other people to fight for it. And for me, that's being mobile, finding ways to interact with clients, and finding the different things that are out there. Day-to-day real life for me in my libraries is doing network and research and outreach, going to meetings, joining subgroups in the organization, delivering presentations wherever I can, and trying to find projects to embed myself. At the school has been a bit tough because of the type of work that I'm doing, but I'm still there, and people are getting to know me more and more, even though I'm stuck at STQ, which is kind of crappy. I'm out there where there's a lot of other things happening on this side of the river, but you know what? I get to do what I can. And one thing that first thing I got to the school, I said, well, do we have a comms plan? Do you have a strategic plan? This is stuff that we had in our can, and at the school, is there even one for the school itself? And I said, well, there's not really a strategic plan for the organization. I said, well, that's kind of crappy, because how can I apply what I need to do and retrospect it in the whole, like as a whole of the organization and blend in? And it's hard to do when the organization doesn't have a clear mandate. Or, well, they have a mandate, but it's not still very clear, because the school's been redefining themselves for reorg in the last 4 years. Means there's a lot of changes, and how can you deal with that? So for me, I said, okay, well, if they don't have it, well, I'm going to try to find my niches and find ways that I can still work with the different groups, build myself a comms plan, because communications wasn't working with me, so I'm building a strategy, rework my website. Again, website on the internet, have to deal with comms. Comms was being reorganized, affected. So, okay, well, IT also manages the website. Well, I'll work with IT, and IT's been supporting me now. So I'm finding ways around, but I want to get things done. And I'm creating my own strategies to get it done, even though we're a team of 4. And actually 3, because one person's on a extended sick leave. So that's my library at the moment. We're 3 individuals, and we're moving forward, while 30 or 40% of my time is dedicated to GC Docs at the same time. So not moving as very fast as I want it to be, but you know what? It's government. Nothing moves fast. Some of the other things that I say being creative, and I see Angry Birds here, and I actually did that a couple of weeks ago. If you're familiar with the school's been integrating iPads into the classroom. Well, for GCWCC, we had an event that our whole corporate management branch had to organize activities, and they were doing like a mini Olympics. And I was like, you know what? They wanted me to run the book sale because you work in the library. I'm like, I'm not doing a book sale. I'm not going to stereotype myself like that. I want to do something different. And I knew we were using iPads, so I said, okay, can I get the iPads and use them for an exercise? And I said, yeah, whatever you want to do. I said, okay, I'm going to download Angry Birds, free trial version. We set ourselves up on a floor, and I was walking around the floor with the iPad, and they had an Apple TV connected to a projector, and you could see it over top the cubicles, and we're playing Angry Birds. And I said, see, you're playing here, and look over there. This is the technology that you're using in the classroom. And this is how the classrooms are being more and more mobile and adopting technologies. And you know what? The iPads and where they're being stored has to go in the library. Because you know what? We're open to accepting other things in our library that maybe we don't own, we don't manage. But you know what? We want to justify our space and our existence. So we're opening ourselves up to different initiatives, what's going around. Doing lunch and learns and demo. I did one on Twitter for some group not too long ago. I've done a demo of library services, and like we already do, but it's just trying to do more and more about that. And I think integrating some of the tools that are happening within government, GCpedia, GC Connects, GC Forums, talk about those things. I think it's very important to do that. And still don't forget the traditional stuff. And I did add rearrange the furniture. This is the second library that I've worked in that we've done stuff like that. First did it in NRCan, and I think Stefan can still attest that the space is still being used by a lot of people that are coming in for meetings. Same thing at the school. There was a TV that was on the outside in the entrance of Astiku that hadn't been turned on in 2 years. A flat screen TV, a 40-inch TV. Well, we brought it into the library, put it on a mobile cart. We got a computer plugged into it, and we can hook up to the network. So here you go, I can deliver presentations now. Or anybody that wants to come use it can use it for presentations. So now we have more and more people coming in saying, can we borrow that space? Can we use that space? Yeah, come on in and use it. We want more and more people to use it as much as we can because it's justifying, again, the space. Because our space has been often eyed. If you've ever been to Astiku, you walk into the front doors, you turn right, you have the cafeteria, and then you have big windows in the library. Everybody wanted to be in that space within CSPS. For 2 years before I got there, everybody was fighting over that space, even though there's columns in the room, what we use it for. Classroom doesn't really work because the columns are blocking your line of sight. For the library, it's perfect. It works for us. But how can we kind of still defend our space and keep that space and seeing it as a valuable spot? So rearranging furniture for us was a big deal. And trying to upgrade our furniture is a whole other story because we still have the little kid tables that are there. But you know what? Whatever works, works. If I can move that furniture around, bring people in, I'm happy. And with that too, we got some basically boards that actually move around. So people can actually come in, and we bought markers. What's the cost of adding markers that are erasable markers to our budget? It's not a big deal, but we're providing the venue to use the space. And again, in a nutshell, it was kind of a quick presentation because we don't have a lot of time, and we have to move to the other question. But are there questions for me as I ran through this really quickly? No? 1, 2, 3, no? No questions? So like Paul said, and you can see me like in an iPad. And this is actually an article that was written inside the internal comms about me being new at the school. The school focuses on an employee about once a month and trying to focus on me being there. So this is my photo in the internal comms article. You know, I'm flashing an iPad purposely. The books are positioned purposely. There's French and English. Flash t-shirt, you know. I'm not your traditional librarian. And that's for me was a big part of what I was doing at the school and what did I want to portray as my role or what I can do for the business.